Welcome back to FTW Philly. I'm Marissa Magnata, and this week we're going to be diving deeper into the opportunities that the exciting esports industry is providing gamers. For decades, Philadelphia sports stadiums have been home to one of the most passionate fan bases in the world. Now, in addition to the new Fusion Arena, the esports footprint in South Philadelphia continues to grow. Nerd Street Gamers has partnered with Comcast Spectacor to put a local host esports arena right inside of the Wells Fargo Center, marking the first dedicated public esports space within a pro stadium.
This segment is brought to you by Dietz and Watson.
Tonight is Flyers opening night, and I can tell you that this is probably one of the most special opening nights. Just look around you. We're in the middle of local host, the first esports center in a professional sports venue. This city has never experienced this before.
Here in localhost Wells Fargo Center, you're going to be able to come here and join into tournaments, events, brand activations for the teams. We'll have the space open for free play. We're going to have the traditional sports games. We're going to have games like Fortnite and Call of Duty. It'll be a really authentic experience for gamers to enjoy themselves in an environment they're familiar with while they're in a new environment, seeing maybe something they haven't experienced before.
Localhost Wells Fargo Center is the first public gaming center to be put inside a pro sports arena. It's not practical to have a $3,000 PC in every home and to be able to play games the way they were meant to be played and the pro level experience and being able to bring that to more people. This becomes an amenity for the fans.
You're playing on the same PCs that the Overwatch League professionals play on. You're going to get the same competitive experience right here, available for everybody.
Out of all the years playing video games, just that rush when your heart gets beaten, this kind of environment really brings that out, and it's something I love. Having a spot like this here, it definitely makes my game day experience a lot better, knowing that, hey, before I come to a game, I can compete, maybe win some money, or just have a good time with some friends.
As a kid, I always dreamt of competing in a gaming tournament. I'm a huge gamer, but I never would have thought that these two worlds would collide, like the sports and the esports. I wouldn't have come down today if it wasn't for the gaming tournament.
Having a local host inside the Wells Fargo Center is a really cool opportunity to both attract new people to come out to their matches and games that might not have, but also to provide a new experience that'll retain the fans here they do have. Traditional sports and esports are going to have a long and intertwined future together. I expect every major professional sports stadium to have a gaming activation or a gaming center like this local host in the next 5 years.
This is the next generation of live entertainment, and being able to expose that to more people, I think is a much better way to expose what esports can be and what it's growing to be in the future for people that may have never picked up a controller before.
Our sports are part of the fabric of this city. Competition is at the essence of what this city's history is. When the development of esports, finally gets to where we want it to be, it's going to be embraced by Philadelphia, I think, more than any other place in the country.
Being a professional athlete takes commitment. Whether they're training or competing in events, to be the best, athletes need to take time out of their day to focus on their sport. Athletic sponsorships can include money, merchandise, or other means of support to help lessen the everyday strain outside of their sports activities. Traditional athletes enjoy sponsorships, and with the increase of professional esports careers, those athletes too have begun to benefit in similar ways, allowing them to spend more time doing what they do best.
This segment is brought to you by Lebanon Valley College.
What I think is so fascinating about esports for companies is, for a lot of them, it's brand new. There's so many different genres, and each different genre has its own unique demographic that they can really target. We are bringing the most desirable demographic, the 13 to 40-year-old, to play video games where they might be hanging out for hours on end. As the success grows, the investments grow, people are going to start to realize that this is an amazing opportunity.
My name is Victor Whitley, and I go by Punk. I'm sponsored by Reciprocity. I've been sponsored by them for about 2 years now. I feel like when you're sponsored, that shows that all your hard work pays off, that a team wants to recognize you and they want to sponsor you to fly you around all kinds of places in the world. I think it's really nice to have someone back you
I definitely see some parallels between the traditional sports athlete sponsorship and the esports athlete sponsorship. They're helping them achieve their goal, whether they want to become a pro or make esports a career. It's supplemental income that's allowing them to really focus without having to worry about working a 9-to-5 job.
They support me very good. They send me out to events. I get a pretty good salary, so I'm just very grateful that I could be able to do this and not have to worry about other things. It's just amazing, man.
Being a professional gamer essentially just means you make money from video games. Before, it was just for fun and you could spend all your time getting better at the game. Now I have to spend 90% of my time making sure this makes money for me. Video game was always a hobby for me, something I did for fun after work. And then I won a man tournament when I was 29 years old. The prize pool I won is $75,000. What winning that tournament did was validate myself amongst the great players in the world. When you're a champion, people just respect you that much more.
I think what sponsors are looking for, aside from just skill, would be their personality, their persona, the values that they have, and the audience that they can reach.
I'm their first fighting game player. I'm sure there's a few fans that support the team now because they saw me play.
Once Xbox introduced the party chat, it became social. And streaming is just that times 100. Now you're talking to hundreds of people that can interact with you. I feel like every time I play a game, I gotta put a production on, I gotta get ready, let's go, we're on 8 hours today and we're streaming.
Before I was like sponsored everything, I used to play like 8-10 hours a day, watching tournaments, hoping that one day I could do what they were doing.
We put a lot of practice in to really perfect our craft and be champions, and the same thing happens in football. Tom Brady doesn't show up and just play on Sundays. We spend as much time as possible preparing for whatever competition comes up next.
Esports is here to stay. It's an exciting time. I think we're gonna see more and more companies jumping in, and to get in early to see what works is the perfect time.
The gaming industry is seeing a new wave of female players and influencers. They're continuing to shape what being female in the gaming industry really means. Now, this didn't happen overnight. There are pioneers like Carol Shaw. In the 70s, she worked for Atari and developed the famous River Raid. Then there's Kiki Wolfkill, who takes the leading role in the future of Halo developments. And last but not least, Emily of Dignitas FE is a world champion of CSGO. They've created new career opportunities, developed amazing games, provided support to fellow female gamers, and ultimately made a difference for that young girl sitting in her room who might think that she can never step foot in the industry. Let's see how local women are powering esports and gaming right here in Philadelphia.
There's so many amazing avenues that you can go into for video games, like streaming on Twitch, like developing games, making that art, and also being the boss of a LAN center.
I love competitive games. You get that like drive, like you're top of the leaderboard, you are dominating the entire other team right now. It's just that adrenaline surge. When you're at the top of your game, you feel unstoppable.
But it's tough playing competitively as a woman sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whenever I go into like the competitive play of Overwatch, I know I get tons of people going, oh, you're bad if I don't do something once, and then they're suddenly against me, or constantly being called a 10-year-old boy just because I have a high-pitched voice, because they'd rather think that a little kid is playing than a girl's on their team.
I've definitely gotten a lot of hate from kids at my school making fun of me because I'm a girl and I play video games. You shouldn't be doing this, this is a guy's game. But honestly, I think that made me want to stream even more and more to show them that girls can play video games, girls can stream, there's nothing wrong with it.
That's so empowering because I was on the opposite end of that. I was badly bullied for playing video games, so I thought I was in the wrong and that I shouldn't be doing it. So I straight up stopped for about 6-7 years. And it took until I was in a not so great place to be okay, what did I used to like? What did I enjoy in life and find exciting? And that's how I found my way back to it.
So when I was looking into some of the history of video games, I do remember coming across After the fall of Atari, there was a huge discussion of, okay, Nintendo was the next big thing because they viewed themselves as an entertainment system versus a game system. But instead of marketing in like electronic stores with TVs, they decided to market to children. And it was just a flip of the coin. Who did they decide to market to? And they decided to market to boys. And this has become an identity that video games have held on to for years. And we're starting to break down with that. But the discussion is still that disconnect of, oh, video games are for boys, video games are made by boys, boys only club sort of thing. I think there is definitely a disconnect between the fans when it comes to that. The fans want to keep this sort of identity because I feel like they've built themselves around, people don't like me because I'm into this because video games are nerdy or geeky, and that meant that they were finding their own home there, and they don't want to share that home since video games are now so popular and mainstream and essentially sports teams now.
I did experience it from a fan perspective of this team might lose because there's a girl on it, or this team only has a girl on it because that's going to give them some sort of edge publicity-wise. Women aren't seen as equally competitive as men.
These guys are like, oh, I'll beat you in a 1v1. I go up against them and I win. And they're like, oh, I wasn't even trying. Just because they don't want to face that they just lost to a girl because it's like the end of the world to them, when really girls can be just as good as guys in video games.
It's how the community views us, really, when we're on a male team, and that's why female leagues exist.
There definitely seems to be a double standard between women playing video games and men playing video games, and I think it does come from how they were marketed towards a male audience very early on, and it has been a constant theme. Look at how women have been portrayed in video games, consistently sexualized and hyper augmented to be just this sexy female figure within the video game.
And while there's nothing wrong with that in certain places, like art styles can be like that, it's nice to see games like Horizon Zero Dawn feature a main female character with no romantic option. It's refreshing. And then you see games like the remake of the new Tomb Raiders, and Lara Croft looks more normal. Just normal, like you look like a human being.
She looks like she should be running around the Arctic tundra, and yet there are still some guys that are still upset that she's not still in the booty shorts and the tank top.
When you look at how developers go headfirst into a game and really try to connect with the audience, a lot of that has to do with the player connecting to some part of the game. And it wasn't until I played one of the Pokemon titles that had come out, it was just mind-blowing that I even had an option to choose whether I was male or female.
From the design standpoint, as long as the character is built with the same skeleton, you can put the same animation directly on it.
Especially when like these male scenarios, it's nothing a woman can't do either. Like it's an easy way to replace a male body with a female body in most stories if you just change the name, the connotation.
But a lot of companies don't really want to put the extra effort in to just do the characters, because that's the whole joke. I forget what company said they couldn't have a female character because females are too hard to make walk.
I think Skyrim was the first game I played that you could select a female, and I sunk hours upon hours into Skyrim, and I think it was so enjoyable because it felt like I was playing. I was here, I was the archer killing these dragons.
I had a similar experience when Overwatch came out. I also remember when I first experienced Mass Effect, and that being the first game that I could actually take the time to make a character that looked like me, because I don't look traditionally female. That's just how I am. It's how I feel comfortable. But having a game that lets me create someone that looks similar to me, it was a sort of empowerment, like, hey, there's representation. People like me can be in these stories. And I feel like that's very important, and a lot more games are branching out. We're seeing such diverse characters. We're getting it for different races, different gender expressions and identities, and I think that's something that we need.
I watched the Fortnite World Cup. A lot of the people like made fun of the girl speaker because they're always like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. Then once the guys came around, they were like, oh, this is so fun. But like the girls were just dissed for doing their job, just being a girl.
I can actually speak a lot to that because that is my job. I don't think being a woman has anything to do with my ability on camera, off camera. I just like to do my job. But I am always met with that criticism of, she's a woman. She must have gotten this job because she's a woman and they're trying to meet a diversity quota. Or I get what you were talking about in Twitch chat or something where she's a woman, she doesn't know what she's doing and she doesn't know what she's saying.
I've led classrooms where I know that some people have been shocked that I've referenced specific games or said this is a good example for art style or art direction, and they've been confused because it doesn't fit the sort of narrative that they've been exposed to.
I came onto a team that was 6, 7 people strong, all men, and I was the only woman. I did not ever feel like I was only there because of my gender. I was there because I had a task that I could accomplish and I could do my job justice.
It doesn't matter what gender you are as long as you're the best person for the job.
I feel really lucky that we have had so many wonderful female role models in the video game industry that we get to look up to.
I'm with you on that. Watching those women, I feel like I have the confidence to walk into any, meeting, boardroom, whatever it is, and I can do my job justice because I kind of I seek their energy.
I feel like I get a lot of my inspiration from my students, and they're just getting started, so they're just learning what it means to be an artist, be a developer, what it means to really see the industry. And I see so many ideas and so much passion from just being in that room with them that it really drives me. And this is why I create. This is who I want to create for.
I look up to Ewok because she's a young girl, she's deaf, she's good at video games, and she just joined one of the biggest organizations for Fortnite, which is crazy.
And that organization has never signed a woman before either.
Yeah.
True.
So it was insane to see that happen and it be Ewok.
Not even signing, but what about winning? This past weekend at BlizzCon, we had VK Lion, the first female Hearthstone Global Games champion. And I remember watching that moment live and feeling the energy in the room. For so many young women sitting in that audience, that could have been them. That could be them. That's going to be them. My only hope is that maybe I would be lucky enough to be in a position one day to be that kind of role model to young women and young people everywhere, that the space is for everybody.
The big thing I want to see in esports in the future is I don't want to see women as being a shock when you walk into a space and there's women there. I want women to be expected.
It's not at all about the gender, it's about the dedication to the game, the time you put into the game, the discipline you have for it.
If you're enjoying yourself, if you're having fun, if you're feeling a sense of community, then you're a gamer. This gatekeeping is starting to crumble and everyone should be able to play something if they want to.
So you want to become a professional esports competitor? Now you can. As you can see, Philadelphia has been presenting various avenues for anyone looking to train and compete in an environment that fosters growth as a gamer. But these opportunities weren't always around. Companies didn't support pro gaming like they do now. There were very few places for esports competitors to go if they wanted to compete at the professional level, and the few havens that did exist were very limited. Now, if you want to compete at the top tier, there are people who are looking to invest, companies looking to support, and opportunities to do just that, if you're willing to put in the work.
Gaming and esports in general has advanced a lot in the last several years.
In the past, there wasn't that much compared to what it is today. Mainly back in the day, we played for pride, we played for bragging rights.
I wanted to compete. I had to gather up a bunch of my friends and go over to my friend's house, and we would connect our Xboxes together and compete against each other.
Back when I was playing it, we went to LAN centers that were holes in the wall.
We played for processors, we slept in cars. It was kind of frowned upon. It was looked at as a way of being antisocial.
Unfortunately, my school's internet was horrific. The school really takes the internet and puts 90% of the bandwidth. There was classrooms during the day. So I would have 2 hours a night maybe to play at 1 or 2 in the morning till 4 in the morning when the internet gets bandwidth back to the houses.
Growing up, we bought all of our games at GameStop. The workers there would tell us, hey, we're hosting this tournament on Saturday, feel free to come by. And it would be just a bunch of random people that wanted to play Halo competitively. And that was probably one of the only avenues we had.
Fragadelphia is a Counter-Strike event that started on the East Coast here in Philadelphia.
In 2013, all the LAN centers had closed. There was no tournaments locally. There was no event that really brought people together. At the time, I was working for Apple. My co-partner was working for some insurance company. And we both said, hey, you remember those tournaments we used to go to? You want to throw one? And the idea was a joke at first. And then I made a post on an online forum and people were really interested. And we sold out the tournament in 2 days.
When we first started doing Fragadelphia tournaments, they were BYOC. And then we had monitors. So you didn't need to bring your monitor anymore. You just needed to bring your computer. And then we had computers, and you didn't even need to bring anything. All you needed to do was show up with a mouse and keyboard and a desire to compete. So without events like Fragadelphia, I don't think there would really be an amateur scene.
People have to get noticed. To get further ahead in gaming in general, you have to have a great performance somewhere. The same way that professional sports, college recruiting of football, they send highlight reels to multiple schools to get a scout to come out and watch their kid play. You can't do that in gaming. So you need to have lesser tournaments for that to happen. So Fragadelphia became that lesser tournament.
That's one of the things we've always said, is that we have the largest open grassroots tournament in the world.
We basically say, hey, there's no limit to like what teams are able to play in this, and that's why the prize pot just keeps growing and growing and growing. First prize pot I want to say was maybe 2,000. The next event is 35K.
We're creating a culture that doesn't dismiss the history of esports while still giving people the taste of modern day esports. We've created a gaming community and an esports community on the East Coast centered around Philadelphia. We're planting seeds right now, and the seeds are starting to grow, and within a matter of years, they're producing fruit.
The opportunity is really big, especially for the young generation. They keep bringing more and more titles, and there's other opportunities for not just, say, like Counter-Strike, or there's also strategy games, card games, or MOBA games.
With the accessibility that's really out there now, it's exploded everywhere.
Esports is a very incredible industry, and it's booming, and we're all very fortunate here in Philadelphia. Whether you're a competitive gamer, whether you're somebody that wants to get into the esports scene, Philadelphia is taking advantage of that, and the companies within Philadelphia want to get into the esports scene, and I think that overall is creating a stronger foundation for esports. I never thought that gaming and esports would grow to what it is today.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm Marissa Magnotta, and I'll see you next time.